The purpose of this presentation is to teach us students how to link key concepts and correlate them into different marketing strategies. This assignment forces us to use terms that we have read about and utilize their true meanings. It shows us that we have more than a basic understanding of this knowledge. This assignment has allowed us students to review information from the past in order to gain a better understanding. Completion of this presentation teaches us students how to critically think. The project's focus was on marketing Nicaragua chocolate to Illinois State students. It is important for Nicaragua to get an understanding of how much ISU students know about the country because this country will be focusing mainly on selling to these students. In order for Nicaragua to market their product correctly, they must get to know their target audience. In any advertising, it is very crucial to get to know as much information on your target market as possible. Nicaragua will benefit from the information gathered from the focus group because they will learn about new areas in which they need to focus on in order to educate ISU on Nicaragua and their chocolate. A popular method which marketers use to advertise certain products in the hopes of increasing sales is sensory marketing. This is where companies think about the impact of or the sensations that a product might create while a consumer experiences it. Marketers rely heavily on visual elements in advertising, store design, and packaging. Colors can influence emotions more directly. If Nicaragua is looking to target ISU students, they might consider using a trade dress that is similar to Illinois State school colors. The familiarity of the colors to the students will stand out and increase their awareness of the candy bar. Students will be able to relate to the design. Another way Nicaragua can increase the sales of their candy bar is setting up an appropriate display at the store it is being sold at. When deciding what the display is going to look like, one must discover what must be done in order for their product to stand out amongst other competitors' products. The success of a display has to do with how its potential consumers perceive it. There are 3 strategies to perception: exposure, attention, and interpretation. Exposure occurs when a stimulus comes within the range of someone's sensory receptors. Consumers concentrate on some stimuli, are unaware of others, and even go out of their way to ignore some messages. The goal of perception by exposing customers to certain stimuli is the hopes that they are able to notice that stimuli and come to a certain feeling about it. People every day are exposed to different sales going on. Another area Nicaragua's chocolate can look at to increase sales is promoting the item by advertising them as half price or buy one get one free ads. If Nicaragua decides to advertise by using sales, they should always consider putting Weber's Law into place in order to provide a stronger consumer response to the promotion. Weber's Law states that the stronger the initial stimulus is, the greater the change must be for one to notice it. Since the price of the chocolate is low, it is better to show value to customers by promoting buy 2 get 1 free ads. Attention refers to the extent to which processing activity is devoted to a similar stimulus. One may pay more attention to something if they find it more interesting compared to something else. The competition for our attention in our society today is steadily increasing because of the amount of advertising information consumers have to process on a daily basis. There are several factors advertisers need to consider in order to have their product catch the attention of potential consumers. In general, we are more likely to notice stimuli that differ from others that surround us. If Nicaragua were to set up a display in a store, some factors they would want to consider in order to guarantee that they would catch the attention of their consumers would be size, color, position, and novelty. Once consumers perceive a product by giving it their attention, they then go on to interpret it. Interpretation refers to the meaning we assign to sensory stimuli. Just as people differ in terms of the stimuli that they perceive, the meaning that we assign to these stimuli vary as well. The stimulus that we offer to different products depends on the schema or set of beliefs that consumers hold to a certain product. Nicaragua wants to present to ISU students that their chocolate is made specifically for them. If they view the chocolate as chocolate made specifically for Redbirds, then they might interpret the chocolate as supporting the university. The dimension that Nicaragua can use to help shape this view is the product class Nicaragua chocolate is Redbird chocolate. The information gathered to make these assumptions were done so by researching information in the book and by general findings. Illinois State college students can all be generalized in the same category. They are roughly between the ages of 18 and 24. Most college students have a very low income. In order to get college students to react to purchasing chocolate, the price, advertising, location needs to be right. Locations that would be most available for students would be the Alamo 2, CVS, Barnes & Noble, and other local stores. If Nicaragua's focus is only on ISU students, then they should make the candy bar relatable by picking the color scheme associated with Illinois State's. Also, any pictures on the candy bar should create a meaning to the students. This is an example of semiotics. All recommendations given to Nicaragua were taken by researching basic marketing principles.
This study, a focus group was conducted so we could gather information to help a chocolate company in Nicaragua better understand how to position its brand towards Illinois State students. In this particular focus group, we gathered 10 Illinois State students with the ages ranging from 21 to 22. These students had a variety of majors that consisted of insurance to renewable energy. All these students were born in the United States, though. This study of the focus group was conducted on August 26th of 2014 in a classroom in the State Farm Hall of Business that is designed to gather focus groups. One of the first questions that we asked the students was if a company from Nicaragua needed any helpful hints on how to position its brand, what their ideas might be. Some of the students said that they would position the brand more towards women. They said this because women tend to eat chocolate more than men, is what they think. Another thing they said is that they should possibly do a natural candy bar or animal cruelty-free candy bar. They said this because in society, a new trend is rising where people want to be more healthy or health conscious, so it might set them apart from their competition. Another thing the students said was to possibly do a humor advertisement if they're going to advertise their candy bar at all. They said this because college students look for funny things on the internet all day. So if they ran across something that was funny, then it might make them go want and try the product, or at least tell their friends so word of mouth would occur for the product. Next, we asked the students if they had any helpful hints on the way that these company from Nicaragua should package their chocolate, or even what they should put on the packaging. The students from Illinois State University had a couple of ideas. The first one was to use bright colors, in particular red. They said this for 3 reasons. The first being that red strikes your hunger. So when you see red, it might make you more hungry in the store and more likely to want to buy the candy bar, which would result in more sales, which would be good for the company. The second thing is that it is the first color that goes to your mind. And by doing that, you would just see the candy bar first, and it might stick in your mind longer. The third reason is that Illinois State's colors are red and black. So this would give something for students to relate to for the candy bar, and it might make them buy it more than another candy bar that's on the shelf next to it. Another thing that the Illinois State students said is possibly putting a logo of Reggie the Redbird or Illinois State's logo. They said this because we're all part of one thing, and that's Illinois State. So it's something that we can all relate to and might be willing to buy over another chocolate bar because it's something that we know is true to us. So through this research focus group, we found out that this company from Nicaragua should position its brand by targeting women more than men, but making a funny advertisement that relates to all people, and also possibly doing a health-conscious candy bar so that people that are on this new trend have an option too, and it might set them apart from their competitors. The last thing for packaging would be bright colors, particularly red, is something that everyone can relate to on this campus. And the last thing is pastely putting Illinois State's logo because that's something that we can all relate to.
Perception is key when it comes to selling Nicaraguan chocolate to ISU students. Sensations play a large role as well, but ultimately perception is what drives the consumer to purchase a product. By understanding how ISU students operate, along with the findings of general consumer preference, the Nicaraguan Chocolate Company will have a better chance at positioning their chocolate to the mass of students at Illinois State University. Context effects are a key factor in just how the chocolate is marketed towards students on campus. As stated previously, the color red can be a driving factor in positioning anybody to purchase something due to the fact that it is the first color seen on the spectrum, and in this case is also the color to stimulate hunger. My first recommendation would focus on the packaging of the chocolate bar. It is almost imperative that the chocolate be wrapped in some variation of the color red. This also works to our benefit due to the fact that the ISU colors are black and red, and the students on campus are affectionately called redbirds. Perhaps some sort of packaging that plays on the ISU redbird logo, maybe showing the bird eating chocolate, could be a great way to use context effects on the everyday student at ISU. A focus on the color red, whether it be the entire bar wrapped in it or a large majority of the bar covered in it, would also stimulate students to be inclined to purchase the chocolate bar. By creating these context effects of stimulation and familiarity, there may end up being a natural pull to the chocolate bar. Semiotics, which refers to using signs or symbols to communicate a brand, can also be put into play here. The ISU logo can already be described as a semiotic due to the fact that every student is aware of the redbird and all have taken to its meaning of school pride. Another idea for the packaging of the Nicaraguan chocolate bar would be to play off the packaging of already established chocolate bars. The principle of similarity states that consumers tend to group together objects that share similar physical characteristics. By playing off the recognition of established chocolate brands, ISU students may take an easier notice in the new Nicaraguan chocolate bar, thus increasing the likelihood of people to purchase it. In addition to creating a similar type of branding for the chocolate bar, they can also use a positioning strategy to differentiate their product from the rest. This could be any number of different attributes, from varieties of flavors, an emphasis on natural and animal cruelty-free products, addition of other supplements such as energy in the form of caffeine, or even just the size of the candy bar altogether, either marketing the fact that the Nicaraguan candy bar is less in calories due to its smaller size, or more bang for your buck due to its larger size. Classical conditioning is another method that the Nicaraguan Chocolate Company could attempt to sell its chocolate to ISU students. Classical conditioning occurs when a stimulus that elicits a response is paired with another stimulus that does not elicit a response on its own. For example, a sample-sized candy bar could be handed out to every student that uses ISU's parking lots on a daily basis. Every time a car is prompted to pay for the amount of time they've been parked, the person sitting in the booth handling the transaction could also hand out a free sample of the new Nicaraguan chocolate. Over time, students will learn to expect a sample piece of chocolate every time they drive out of that parking lot. If their taste buds respond appropriately and they end up enjoying the chocolate, they may be prompted to go out and actually purchase an entire bar. Thus, they have been conditioned to expect a sample piece of chocolate so many times that they have gained familiarity with the product and are now willing to go out on their own to purchase the chocolate. Repetition or repeated exposure to the chocolate would increase the strength of the stimulus response associations and prevent people from forgetting about these associations. In this experiment, the chocolate would represent the unconditioned response, as most people will accept a free piece of chocolate. The transaction between the driver and the booth would be the conditioned stimulus, as drivers would learn to expect a piece of chocolate every time they drive out. This would mean the expectation of chocolate itself would be the conditioned response in this particular example. Stimulus generalization may also become established, which refers to the tendency of stimuli similar to a conditioned response to evoke similar conditioned responses. For example, when the Nicaraguan company eventually stops its promotion and samples of the chocolate are no longer handed out, people will still have the expectation of getting a piece of chocolate every time they leave their parking spot. Given that the transaction of free samples would be non-existent now, the student may take the extra time to go out and buy a whole-size candy bar, based solely on the fact that they've become accustomed to eating the Nicaraguan chocolate every time they leave that parking lot. The parking lot example is not the only way classical conditioning could be utilized to sell chocolate to ISU students. Other examples would include the administration of chocolate samples when students are given tests, when they are purchasing everyday items, or when entering or leaving a dorm building. The key point being that the student will likely learn to like the chocolate based on the fact that they are brought into its vicinity on such a regular basis. Of course, this strategy would take an in-depth interaction between the Nicaraguan Chocolate Company and the surrounding ISU community, something that would definitely require a lot of work. Another effort that the Nicaraguan company could choose to pursue would be to create an advertisement to be seen by ISU students all around campus. Due to the fact that most people on campus said that they enjoy funny advertisements over serious ones, comical seems like it would be the best route to take for this particular product. To avoid advertising wear out, which states that consumers can become so used to hearing or seeing a marketing stimulus that they no longer pay attention to it, the Nicaraguan company could create an advertisement off the beaten path. By creating something funny but also something people are equally unaccustomed to, the rise in interest for the Nicaraguan chocolate company would become substantial. The Nicaraguan company could perhaps pair the chocolate bar with something unusual or odd, eliciting a higher interest than other boring advertisements do. Skittles does a great job of this by creating commercials that are so different that consumers cannot help but take notice. For example, the Skittles Touch, a TV advertisement that ran in 2007, sees a man who turns everything he touches into Skittles. Because this idea was so silly, consumers took notice in its hilarity and quickly began to praise this sort of advertising. This has, in turn, allowed Skittles to continue to make advertisements in the same vein, changing up their silly ideas to even sillier ones, ensuring that consumers remember just how unusually funny their advertisement was. Lastly, the Nicaraguan Chocolate Company should look into personality. Personality plays a large role when it comes to how well a product can be sold to consumers. Personality, which refers to a person's unique psychological makeup and how it consistently influences the way a person responds to his or her environment, should be taken into deep consideration when trying to market a certain product. It was mentioned in the focus group that perhaps women would be an easier market to try to sell the Nicaraguan chocolate to. Going off this knowledge, the Nicaraguan company would have to analyze how a woman's personality affects her decision to purchase chocolate. Being that everybody is different no matter what gender they possess, this may be a harder aspect to pinpoint when looking for ways to market the chocolate. However, it can be generally stated that women are more emotional to men in some aspects, and because of their emotional tendencies, they tend to turn to chocolate more often. By acknowledging this difference and using it to their benefit, the Nicaraguan company could tap into a whole different market entirely. Thus, advertisements geared towards women and their specific personality traits may be a smart strategy to undergo when trying to market the chocolate. Ideals of beauty are important to women, which can include cosmetics, hairstyles, skin tone, and body type. By including strong, beautiful women in their ads, the Nicaraguan Chocolate Company could reach an audience of women that adhere to these sorts of advertisements. Perhaps an advertisement for a non-fat, low-calorie version of their chocolate bar would prompt more women to go out and purchase the candy bar.
Overall, this focus group was a success, but we did have some limitations. One of the limitations suggested that we only had 10 students come to our focus groups, which limited the conversation and possibly ideas that could have been circulated if we had more. Another limitation that we had was that the students were not prepared on their answers for this focus group and did not know many things about Nicaragua. Most of them said that they were not familiar or very little familiarity with Nicaragua at all, so it limited the conversation that we had on that topic. And for this focus group, we would have done a few things different if we could have done it again. We would have tried to get the students to talk more and to discuss among themselves instead of just answering the questions straight to us. We also would have liked to held more focus groups so that we could see if the answers were consistent and then give the same things that we already have to prove that it's true, or see if there's differences between students' views more than the 10 that we used. So overall, this focus group was a success, and we do have some recommendations for the company overall. We would say to use a humor ad, to target women possibly, to use red, and possibly a logo from Illinois State, because that is something that we can all relate to. And hopefully with these helpful hints, the Nicaragua company can better position its brand at Illinois State University and be successful.